So, welcome to week 16 of the framework for faculty and student success. This week, we're installing wall frames on the second floor so that we can keep our content engaging. Our introduction here, we're going to be focusing on aligning the module level objectives with the course level outcomes. So we're kind of, think we've already started with alignment, or at least we've mentioned it before. And it was, of course, the big focus of the outcomes and assessment day. Um, and so we're actually starting a new section here, or new standard from the Washington Course Design Checklist. So this is standard 2.3. This is the last of standard 2, which is focused mostly on outcomes and objectives. And then we'll have a couple of indicators for this one. And then in section 3, we'll be moving on to assessment. So outcomes and then assessment. And then our objective for this week specifically align, as I just said, the module level objectives with the course level outcomes to create a cohesive and effective course structure. Speaking of alignment here, this one is, I've tapped it as aligning with responsibility. And if you're working on skill standards, this would be the B4, implementing curriculum and assessments. And for our course learning outcomes, alignment with objectives and outcomes. Later on, we'll have the link here for those people who missed it. And then I will make sure to give you all the code at some point so that you can put it into the quiz. Usually on the what? Standard lessons here or modules, we have a kind of a reflection. And usually there's a bunch of questions for the reflection, but this time it's not so much. So I think we could probably talk about these things today, fill them out, and get them done pretty easily. But I also wanted to look at some of the references here, mainly this online course mapping tool. So this is talking about, or this is a good, really good resource to look at how you can map out your courses, and then, as you can see here, focusing on the alignment aspect of it and focusing on backward design. So we can go through this website and kind of see what they got and see how that can be helpful for you all. Put this in the chat. I don't think I've done that yet, so I'm going to put this in the chat for you all. Oh, no, I guess I already did it. Okay. So um, I'll give you all a second here to read the introduction, and then we can talk about it. And then uh, I'm thinking we could go over these questions together, and I can see how y'all think about these things. And then, yeah, like I said, we'll go into that website there. So. So short paragraph about kind of the importance of alignment. I think y'all probably already know about that. But maybe we can go around and if anybody wants to hop off the mute and talk about what you think about alignment, um, and or how aligned do you think your courses are currently? What kind of alignment do you have?
I think I know Don is here too, and we're teammates. Um, we were when Achieving the Dream came in, and I cannot remember what it was called. We were like a test bed for uh, validating our alignments for modules to courses to course outcomes. And the thing the thing that we do is and we're kind of lucky in a way. Some of our curriculum is already canned, so the outcomes are already built
Hmm.
into what we teach. Now, it doesn't mean it stays that way because things change rapidly in IT. Um, so we any course that we build, we map it as a introductory or intermediate or advanced.
Hmm.
And then in the courses, we verify that those meet those outcomes. Um, Tools wise, we've used several. I couldn't even tell you the names of them. There have been a few. Don
Okay.
might remember.
Maybe some of the ones that were part of that program, the Pathways program.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I like that. And the way that you broke it down, where you're introducing something, reinforcing and mastering. I think that's something that we all worked on with the program assessment maps, I think is what we're calling it here at Clover Park, where I think that was part of our my session at income or outcomes assessment day was to go through those and um, update whether some if you have any new courses and then um, where they line up, whether they're mastery or introductory or reinforcing.
Right. I believe it was pathways, guided pathways is what
That sounds
Don
right.
Don typed it in. That's where we really had to take a hard look at what we're teaching, where we're teaching it, and how that met the within the course itself, the tasks we gave our students, how that met the outcome for that course, and then of course how does that meet the program outcomes, etc., and then the
Yeah.
college.
Yeah. And then we're working on that right now. We've got a couple work groups set up to kind of help with that alignment for the college-wide learning outcomes. And saw Snowy just joined us, so uh, I I would be happy to hear your perspective. We're talking about for this standard 2.3 is the alignment of objectives and outcomes. And so we I was just going around and Kelly was explaining how he was going through the Achieving the Dream cohort guided pathways, and they took a real close look at the alignment. And I was trying to see if anybody else in here would like to hop off mute and share how alignment, how you feel your courses are aligned, and examples of why that is.
And not to mention that Snowy does help us with that, by the way. I'm glad she logged in.
Yeah, she's really the expert, I would say.
Yeah,
Eh,
I'm glad she logged in because she does help us with that.
Hello, everyone. Sorry I'm late. I just met the Cosmo faculty and back to the office. So we are looks like we are talking about alignment of our outcomes with cultural learning outcomes, right? So are we talking about the program level or course level?
Oh, so actually this one where I mentioned the college-wide, and I think you came in on that part of the conversation. But this one is actually more course at the course level, and then aligning objectives. So what they're doing in their
In
individual
the course.
classes, yeah,
Okay, so
with
we're
the
talking
course
about
as a whole.
course design, correct?
Yeah, and we were gonna I was gonna go over this one a little bit later about the course map from who is this from? Brent Hartley and April Cha, and then also looking at backward design. But I saw Tracy hopped off mute. Did you want to share what some of the alignment that's going on in your courses?
Yeah, I think, well, the only thing that I would add to what I think was it Kelly that was talking earlier?
Yeah.
What was already said was I am trying to engage my advisory committee a little bit more on that. So, and this, I guess, is to like aligning my course learning outcomes to the program learning outcomes, which is, I mean, they do their rotations in our clinical sites at the end of the program, and many of the people at those clinical sites are on the advisory committee. And so, like, yes, they provide feedback on like through their student assessments, but getting verbal, like in a more conversational type way from them during our advisory committee. And then also just like it, I mean, and this is, I think, what sparked it when Kelly was talking, was just what are the needs of the industry, and how can I continue to align the coursework with what the industry needs are.
Which are always ever changing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tracy. So if nobody else wants to hop off and talk about your courses, we can start getting into some of these questions here, these specific questions. And then, like I said, this will be your submission for this week's assignment. The first question here is about strategies or tools do you use to ensure the alignment of critical components of your course? Kelly mentioned that he's used a bunch, but I don't know if you were able to think of any specific ones, and I'm sure Snowy can give us some of hers that she knows about. But does anybody have any tools that they use to ensure alignment?
I'm not quite sure if it is the appropriate way to say the tools to ensure the alignment. I would say,
Or then
looking
what
at
about strategies? If it's not a tool,
all right,
then a
yeah,
strategy. Jaya's got
yeah, I
her
would
hand up.
prefer
Jaya, do you have
strategy.
a strategy or tool that you use?
Yeah, I do, as a matter of fact.
Care to share?
I use the, yes, I'm here to do that. I use the accreditation standards that our professional, organization for our industry sets forward. I mean, we're working towards having our program accredited within the interior design accreditation formal committee people, right? So now we have a bachelor's degree, which we've had for a few semesters, and we're trying to build the program. And all of our new curriculum, which was recently like integrated, has those directly used. Like, we purposefully took every recommendation that they require and put it through the test so that because we want to be up to the standards of the organization.
Yeah.
Sorry, did that make sense?
It made perfect sense, and I was gonna add on that. Yeah, I met with some of the people over with aviation maintenance last week, and they also have a similar situation where they are aligning their outcomes of their program with the accreditation body that is, awarding certificates for aviation maintenance. So I think that's a great way, or like a great goal.
It's like a checklist. We're using like a checklist as we go through, and yes, but I think Snowy said, and no one really has to say it, but we just implemented this new curriculum, and I can already see, have reflection on what's occurred in the short time that we've had it implemented. So it's very interesting to be engaged in writing a new curriculum, implementing it, and then seeing how it actually performs
Mm-hmm.
and working towards strengthening things that need to be strengthened. And yeah, so there you go. That's it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that you hit a good point that especially if you're, trying to do something, new and if you have, okay, I want this goal for all of my students to have these outcomes to accomplish all of these uh, things, um, but then you also have to make sure that your assessments are aligned with that and that your assessments are created in a way to show, mastery of whatever outcome they're trying to do. And that's a lot of work. It's like one thing to put it down on paper and put it into Watermark, have it show up on your simple syllabus, but then the next is to uh, make sure that you have the assignments, quizzes, whatever assessment you have in place to measure that and to show clearly that they have met that outcome.
I think that that's pretty much where we're at now. So this is excellent timing for all of it. I mean, just to review and review and review forever, because it's never.
Well, it's like review and then adjust and review and adjust. And
Yes, that's what I would say.
I
Review and
think
adjust.
that it is it seems like a never-ending process.
Yeah, well, it should be if we're evolving or learning or integrating new ideas into our work. I feel like it should be ongoing, but it is exhausting.
Right. It's kind of the dichotomy of the work that we do. Because we want to provide the best service for the students, and I mean it's yeah, like I said, it's a lot of work, and as you said, it's a lot of work. But um, so okay, using the industry standards as a strategy for ensuring alignment. Anybody else have anything else they want to say?
It's sort of similar to using industry standards, but folks have mentioned, uh, using curriculum from like industry itself or uh, um, accreditation standards and stuff like that. But for programs that don't have those things, which environmental science has some of that, but most of our program doesn't have anything like that. So we do rely on getting feedback from our advisory committee to to make sure that what we're teaching, we look at our program or our course program and course learning outcomes, um, and then get feedback on those. But you can achieve sometimes you can achieve a learning outcome as things update in industry and still achieve it's still the same like course or program learning outcome, but you're doing something different in terms of your what you're teaching and what you're assessing. So we sort of rely on our advisory committee to inform us of industry changes and updates.
Hmm. Yeah, that's good. That's another good strategy. If you have those advisory members to at least give you like a different perspective, maybe something that you haven't thought about yet, um, and then offering more knowledge uh, that you might be missing. Kelly, I saw your hand.
Yeah, I was thinking about this, and it really is something that we do is we do what's like a backward design strategy where you meet with industry, you find out the outcomes they want, and then we work backwards to design, the instruction and the assessments to meet those outcomes.
Yes, that's a great strategy. I think I gave a talk or a webinar about that last year in using ChatGPT to help out. That's also on this coursemapguide.com. For those who are unfamiliar, they have a section here on backward design. And I think it's something that Snowy also supports and knows a lot about.
Yep, she sure does.
Is there anything you wanted to add, Snowy, about backward design?
I would say it's like more about how you clearly define your outcome, particularly on the what level of outcome are you expecting your students to achieve? Because when you're designing your assessment activities, you want closely align not only the specific skills or the performance indicators, right, with assignment, but also the level. For example, if you are assessing the level of understanding, the common strategies that you may use is, like reflection paper, right, or a quiz or exam, right? Just you cannot use some other, like for example, like how to say, like a practice, like a performance demonstration, just to assess students' understanding of a concept, right? So when you are aligning the assessment with your outcomes, first you should look at, is it a knowledge, is it a skill, it is conceptual knowledge, is it a procedural knowledge, right? Or is it applied skills? And then what level of learning are you expecting to assess? Is it about understanding? Is it about analyzing? It is about applying, or is it about evaluating? And thinking about those action verbs and the knowledge or skills to design a relevant assessment activity. And in that process, also think about, is there any other activities that I can design to assess this one single CAO? Because we want to encourage using multiple ways to assess student outcome, right? For example, if you want to demonstrate students' understanding of something, so instead of just doing an exam, then you may also assess it through students' discussion, right? Or a discussion forum, right? At least they got a written record of how students understand things. And you may also want to use PowerPoint, right? If students are unwilling or students prefers to, using graphs instead of writing written essay, then perhaps having students using PowerPoint to, do some conceptual graphs, like provide you a concept graph, or visual graphs or concept map, right, to showcase that they did understand this concept. Do I make it clear?
Yeah.
Right. So we can think about multiple ways, according to student different learning styles, right? Is he a reader, or is he a visual, or does he prefer to orally present it, or does he prefer to write it down or sketch it? As long as this outcome that you specified in this course can be assessed or can be demonstrated through students, their preferred way of learning or showcasing, then that is enough.
Yeah, and that's to talk about what you were saying at the beginning about the action verbs. We've been going over objectives and all that stuff for the past couple of weeks, bringing up Bloom's taxonomy and looking at where our individual objectives, how can we word them so that they have a focus on a specific action, or as you're saying, specific knowledge. And then in this course, as you all have been like going through it, all of the assignments have multiple methods of performing whatever. So if this is an instructor interaction plan, then there's multiple ways: a FAQ page, a welcome video, an outline of the plan. So yeah, if y'all can get some inspiration from that, that was what I put in the chat. Kelly said multiple ways of assessment. That's what Snowy is saying, but that's also kind of the idea behind universal design for learning, is making sure your assignment is accessible for all the different kinds of learners and ways that they learn. So if I were to go to the next question here, actually, before I go to the next question here, let me do this one quick thing. I don't know if y'all can see that. Let's see here.
Mhm.
That's spelled right? Okay. This would be the thing you need. The fourth letter is a G. It's the main thing we're talking about today. I'm going to put this away in 3 seconds. All right. So the next question here is, how have you made the relationship between your course outcomes and the module level objectives clear to the students? So we've talked a lot about it. You have your course learning outcomes. We've been working on objectives for each of the individual lessons. Does anybody like tell the students like, okay, here's our objective. This is related to this outcome. I don't expect any of you to do that, but I mean, does anybody do that? Is there another way? Is it outlined in your syllabus? Like what kind of transparency, I guess, do you have with your students to show the alignment that you would have? Jaya?
Well, I don't, I don't do it regularly. However, when I do it, I find that I'm responding to some student, lack of understanding of why we're doing what we're doing for some reason, or what I want or expect out of them for the assignment. So I always remind them at the end of the day, this is what you're doing. And yeah, so I do articulate it to clarify at times, but it just, when it comes up for conversation, not to review with the students.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Well, that's great though. That's at least you're kind of meeting the students where they need it. Because sometimes it might feel awkward. You're like, okay, everyone, here we have this objective, and then this objective is related to this outcome, and this outcome. Like, I can't foresee that like as a daily thing. I mean, that's what I do in this course. I go, okay, this is the college-wide learning outcome, this is the program learning outcome, and then this is the course learning outcome. But I don't know how I don't know how the students would receive it, whether they would be like, oh, thanks for doing it, or if they would just maybe not even pay attention. So
I think that they would pay attention, but I think that if you use tilt in your written assignments, then there's an explanation there for why they're doing what they're doing. So that's another place that the course objectives, or at least the assignment outcomes or deliverables, are noted. So,
and for those that don't know, transparency in teaching and learning is what tilt is. And it's something that whenever I'm trying to build any sort of course, I try to make sure that that's something that's at the forefront of whenever I'm trying to create something, because I don't know, I just feel like if I know exactly what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, what I need to do, and how long it's going to take, what it's worth, then I don't know, I feel more motivated, like I'm here and I know how my time is going to be used. So Derek, I see you have a hand.
Yeah, there's so like for me, uh, a lot of times I'm verbalizing why we're doing what we're doing or what the objective is for the day. Um, uh, um, and also as part of that, I go back and like sort of not review, but say, here's what we covered yesterday,
Hmm.
where we're moving to, and if there's any connection between the two topics. I try to highlight that as well. So for me, it's more verbal, and I'm guilty of not having it like hyped in Canvas. It's something that I know that I should do,
Hmm.
but I know, Jai. I don't. But I'm more on the verbal end of things, and this suggestion is made to to write it on the board or put in a PowerPoint, which would be easy to do. It's but that stuff takes time. So what I've in the interim, I verbalize it. Um, and I've always been curious, like how much do students actually like, are outcomes more for us as the teachers, or are they more for students? Like, do students actually care about outcomes? And so I've asked some students over the years, and they're like, and most of yeah, I would say most all have said, yeah, like we just trust you to teach us what we're supposed to, what we need to learn. So a lot of students don't, at least in my courses, don't seem to be, and maybe it's because I'm not emphasizing the outcomes as much as what I should be. Maybe.
No,
Hmm.
because they're passive and they're not taking charge of their own education. Like I feel like they're not cognizant of what they even should be doing to learn how to get what they know. Sorry, I'm muting myself.
No, we like the discourse, Jaya.
Yeah. I mean, to be quite frank, when I was a student, I didn't care. Like, I didn't go back and look at the outcomes or like in a textbook, objectives, read in a textbook, skip over that. Didn't care. Um, what students have straight up told me what the instructors do for them. Like, they're like, oh, all this information is out there for us. You're offering it to us in an organized way. And I think that's where the outcomes come in because it
Mm.
offers us the organization as the instructor. Um, but again, maybe I'm just if me not being more explicit with the linking the outcomes and objectives, maybe that's why students don't
Mm.
uh, seem to
If
care. And
we are not focusing on it or talking about it much, then yeah, how would they be focused? So I had I made a quick poll here just based on this conversation, and I originally said, are the outcomes more for the instructors or the students? But then I changed it to, should the outcomes, well, the grammar is wrong in here. Should the outcomes be more for the instructors or the students? Um, and it looks like most of y'all are saying that they should be more for the instructors as something to guide our learning. But I don't know. I
At
think
the
there's,
end of the day, we're focused on the students. So I went to hit instructors also, and then I said, oh no, it's always about the students. So if you ever give me a question like that, I've been already trained by the school to just answer, it's all about the students.
as you started talking about it, Jaya, two more went for the students. So I think you inspired your fellow instructors in here. Um, Poppy, I see that you hopped off. Yeah.
Can I like just comment on what Jaya just said?
Yeah, and then Kelly, I see your hand, so we'll hear you after Poppy.
It's always about the student, but that doesn't mean that we can't do something for us first to guide the process.
That's true. I was gonna put both on there, but that's the easy answer. Kelly, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, kind of to follow what Poppy just said. I used to write write notes for my classes. I'd write them in Notepad and of the objectives for that class. One day, I didn't realize I had the projector on, and all my students came in. And when we started class, I took I turned the projector off, or I switched it. I took the document down, and my students were like, "Wait, can we have a copy of that?"
Mm.
I said, "Well, copy of what?" They said, "The document you just had up." I said, "Those are my notes for the class today." And they said, "Yeah, no, that's great because it tells us what we're going to do today and why we're doing it."
Mm.
So from that day on, I do it. I do it religiously at the beginning of class. I have it written up and we go over it. This is what we're doing this week. Well, I do it for the week right now, but depends on the class, right? This is our goal for the week, and here's our goals and our outcomes. This is what we're trying to achieve, and I share it with them.
Mm.
I make it. I actually email it to them, or through Canvas. But I thought instructor too until that happened to me a long time ago, and then I realized I think it's both, really.
Mm. Yeah, that's a great example of like, especially it's something that you have your assumption that it's like, yeah, it's not that important, but then directly from the students saying that that's what they want to see. They want to know what's going on. So I'm going to put a link into the chat to something called Gagne's 9 events of instruction. And it's something that I talked about in the generative AI course. I can't remember what unit or what level it was in, but this was as Derek was explaining, stimulating the recall of prior learning. So um, just for those that don't know about the Gagne's 9 events, general flow of a lesson, um, a, a nice like step by step if you want to have a successful lesson. I try to do this as much as I can. Um, I know in this course specifically, I haven't been gaining your attention as well as I could be. But I like to think that I always go over the objectives at the beginning. Um, I always talk about stuff that we've talked about before in the past. We present the context or presenting the content. And then I'll try to give you all some guidance. And, this is all other kind of stuff that, you would finish off your lesson with. But for those that don't know about this one, I would say it's a good read to go through. Um, oh, I did not know that. And thank you, Kelly. I appreciate you for saying that. I'm always self-conscious. Bloom's taxonomy for computing in the ACM. I'm curious. Sorry, everyone. I just want to take a second here to see what this looks like.
Kat, you're giving away our secrets.
Is there
What's up with
supposed to be? I don't know what's up with that first graphic. Oh, okay. Oh, Bloom's taxonomy, enhanced verbs, debug, trace. Specific, very specific. I like that. I wonder if
Yeah,
they have that kind of thing for all professions.
debug is not something I have ever used in an objective in medical laboratory.
Unless you're like trying to take like somebody's got like a
Parasite.
parasite. Yeah, thank you. I was trying to think of the word. A worm inside their body, and you have to debug them. Okay. All right. I want to talk. Let's see. We got one more question here from this list. So if y'all will humor me, and then we can go through this, and then like I said, I'll go over that resource, the content map. How do your module level objectives provide stepping stones for the achievement of your course outcomes? So this should be the oh, I could put that in there, the one that I was on, Kelly. How do the uh, how do the objectives serve as the stepping stones towards reaching the outcomes? I mean, this is basically just another way of saying how are they aligned. So unless anybody else has anything else to add to it.
I mean, I sort of think of it as the similar to what we do when we do our program assessment maps, like introduce,
Mm,
reinforce, master. That's when I saw scaffolds or stepping stones, that's what I thought of. Like you know, so for example, in ecology for me, or yeah, let's use ecology. I think folks will. So like when we talk about uh, um, endangered species, for instance, well, first we need to understand population dynamics because endangered species have populations and they're endangered if their population numbers get too low. So you need to understand how populations can change over time. And then you have to, you know, so you introduce the concept of population and then you reinforce it by talking about how population numbers change. And then you sort of master this concept when you pull in the concept of endangered species and how species can become endangered, like how their population numbers can drop to such a low level. Just yeah, sort of a quick example from my viewpoint of things. So that's
yeah, and I don't maybe I think you might have came in a little bit late, but I did mention that at the beginning where it was the I think it's the PAM, the program assessment map, where you that was I remember my section of the outcomes and assessment day was going over and making sure everything had is IRM, right? Introduction, reinforced, mastery. Yeah, that's yeah, great point, Derek. If you want to answer this question, if you're doing your reflection for this week, then talking about how your like through your program, how each of the courses build upon each other. Um, and then also, I guess more specific towards this one, how do the objectives for your like week by week or lesson by lesson, however y'all split it up, how do those build to the course outcomes? So we're I guess yeah, I think this is a good chance to talk about or a good opportunity to switch over to this site here where it's the course map guide because the backwards design they have it here as a circular thing, and I guess you always would come back to that. But let me see if I can find. Sorry, I should have been doing this while you were talking, but um, actually, I might have it on the LibGuide. So bear with me for a second. Um, there was, if y'all are interested in learning about backward design and especially using AI to do it, this is a webinar that I gave last year, even though it says 2024. I think it was towards the tail end of 2023. But this is how I kind of see it here, where you've got the course learning outcome. Um, actually, this would be the program learning outcome. And then you've got the course learning outcome. And then you've got the, what's this one? Practice. Actually, I think, yeah, I'm not, it's been a while since I looked at this, but basically kind of if you have this visual here of this mountain of climbing up the mountain, you're starting with all these, you would start at the top and then you would kind of work your way down and then you have your CWLO and then you have your PLOs that go into that and then you've got your CLOs that go into those and then it just kind of uh, makes this natural like triangle as you add more things and then the bottom level would be the assessment and um, yeah, just like Legos. That's exactly right. So anyways, that's if you want to look at the process here, I really like the way that this website kind of lays this stuff out. So like if you want to follow something, I'm sure you all have gone through this in one way or another, but it's nice to see the visual here of, okay, you're starting with your analysis of your curriculum, checking it. I'm sure you all have done this stuff and know these things, but this is kind of what Snowy was talking about earlier. Like, is it a knowledge thing that you're focusing on? Are you focusing on a skill, or are you focusing on attitudes related to learning? Then you have, yeah, this is kind of a broken down version of that. And then this website's nice because it has some worksheets to work through. So if we're talking about tools, like we talked about at the beginning, some different tools. So these kind of give you more information on like what competencies are and how they break down. They they have it here in this table where you've got your purpose and all that kind of stuff. And then it gives you a section here down at the bottom to fill it in for yourself. So, I mean, we might go into this more when we get into where we're going into when we're talking about assessments in the third section. But if y'all are looking for more knowledge to get over the break, here's the course learning outcome. So verb plus object, yep, that's all stuff that we've talked about before. We go verb identifies the observable action. You've got the explanation of the concept here on the other side. This is all kind of stuff that we've done. If you've been following along with this course, I remember looking at tables like this. So there's a CLO exercise. I'm just kind of going through this quick because I just want to let y'all know about this so that if you wanted to, I don't expect anybody to go through this whole process just because you've done it already. But if there is something that's jumps out as like, oh, module learning outcomes.
So back to this topic,
Yeah.
Ronald, thank you a lot for sharing these useful materials. I'm just thinking we can discuss this topic from three perspectives. From the practical perspective, which is from the course content perspective, right? We build up our skills. We can chunk the course content or chunk these skills, knowledge in a course learning outcome by different skills. Sometimes our course learning outcome, for example, is talking about the process, right? So in this process, actually, we have like 2 or 3 skills grouped together.
Mm-hmm.
Then we can chunk the content by those skills. So this one from practical way perspective. Another from cognitive perspective, according to Bloom's taxonomy, we have the outcomes, from the lower level to the higher level of learning. And due to our college requirements, we only allow faculty to use one action verb in one course learning outcome, right? But sometimes we just use, or for most cases, we just use the higher level action verb to describe that course learning outcome. So when you module the course learning outcomes, actually you can break down this course learning outcome from lower level, right? Identifying, recognizing the barriers or awareness of blah blah, and then going to analyzing and then applying blah blah. So break down the course learning outcome by different level of learning. That could be another way to module the course learning outcomes. And also I'm thinking about because we are always talking about inclusivity, right? Talking about equity, right? We want to accommodate to student different learning styles. So from the metacognitive perspective, we want to encourage students to monitor, to plan, to reflect on their own learning. So it would be also helpful to module the course learning outcomes, by, for example, content provision, right? And then reinforce their learning, retain information, and having the students to assess and reflect what they have learned, like the KWLO chart, KWL chart, right? It's more about like reflecting what they have already known and what they want to know more. Does that make sense? So we
Yeah,
can
I like
chunk
that.
or module the course learning outcomes. First is by the skill, the content, the skills, the knowledge.
Mhm.
And second is to break down the outcomes by levels of learning, from understanding, from remembering, understanding, analyzing, applying, creating, evaluating, blah, 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 right? And the third is by students' metacognitive, or should say self-regulated learning. This is like hot topic recently in effective way of learning.
Yeah. To talk about the learning that, and then
How
for
they
them
plan,
to
how they
recognize what they're,
monitor, how
yeah,
they assess.
how the students are doing that for themselves. And that's yeah, and if that's something that could be, I think we talked about it maybe 2 weeks ago, where having something like an exit ticket where there can be some simple questions. What was your main takeaway from today? What is something that you would like to learn more about? And then giving them these little prompts. They could be, if you're in person, they could be little slips of paper to give to them at the end of class, and then they give them back to you. So they're exercising their metacognition, how their learning went, but then it also doubles as information for the instructor to say, okay, it looks like everybody's getting this part, but it looks like everybody's kind of missing on this part. So I have one last video here that I want to end our discussion with on alignment, unless Jaya has something to say. I see a hand. Yes, go
Hey,
ahead.
did I miss the secret code today?
You did. I put it on there, but since you're here right now, I can go ahead and since it's on the screen, it's this, but with small letters.
Lowercase?
Yes, all lowercase.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I was late. I was waiting for it to begin, and then I get working, and then I look up and 7 minutes, 1:07.
What? You still got work to do? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, yeah, I got a lot.
I'm being sarcastic. All right, here's this is from that the website I gave, and I've had this image up here for a little bit. This time towards the end here on the alignment, but a quick little video about alignment to finish us off. Let me know if y'all can hear that.
Alignment is essential to the course mapping process.
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Because it ensures that all components of a course contribute to the achievement of learning outcomes. It's the direct link between the course learning outcomes and the components of a course, and it's demonstrated through the course map. Here's some guidelines for alignment on a course map. Each course outcome should be aligned with at least one module outcome. Each module outcome should be aligned with at least one course outcome. And each module outcome should be aligned with at least one assessment and learning material, and vice versa. While these guidelines state a minimum number, you often find that several module outcomes map back to the same course outcome, and that several assessments and course outcomes map back to the same module outcome. Aligning course and module learning outcomes starts by writing your course learning outcomes with Roman numerals. Then, for each module, you will list your module learning outcomes with Arabic numerals. At the end of each module, you will designate which course outcome or which course outcomes the module outcome aligns with by writing each course outcome's Roman numeral. After writing your module outcomes for each module and aligning those outcomes to your course outcomes, you should ensure that each course outcome is aligned with at least one module outcome.
All right. Didn't know he was going to say outcome so many times. So just to be clear, when he's referencing module outcomes, we've been talking about them as objectives. So just, I wish that there were different terminologies used because it sounds like it's a lot of outcome, but I digress.
Each module will have several learning outcomes. You might consider writing the module number, a decimal mark, and then a sequence of numbers starting with 1 to label your outcomes. This will help you later when you want to align assignments that cover learning outcomes from multiple modules. For each module, you will then want to align your assessments and learning materials back to your outcomes. Let's start with assessments. For each assessment within your module, you will want to list the name, the rubric you plan to use, and then which module outcome or outcomes you plan to assess. You will find that some assessments, like exams, assess learning outcomes from multiple modules. By using the decimal notation, you can quickly recognize that this assessment is assessing outcomes from modules 1 and 2. For each module, you will then want to move on to aligning your learning materials. For each learning material within your module, you will want to list the name, the description, and the module outcome or outcomes that they align with. Once you've completed writing and aligning your assessments and learning materials, go back through each module and ensure that each module outcome has been aligned with at least one assessment and one learning material. Assessments that have no module outcomes attached to them should either be removed or labeled as not graded. Learning materials that have no module outcomes attached to them should either be removed or labeled as supplemental optional.
All right, so lots of information to drop on y'all right at the end, but this is actually what we're going to be covering in the next couple of weeks. We'll probably do one more next Friday. I know it's like the last day of the term, but if you can make it, then that would be great, and we can continue talking about alignment. Thank you all for coming. Good
Can
luck.
you share that link?
Yeah, sure.
That video? That would
I'll
be
put it
awesome.
in the chat right now. And I hope you all have a nice last week of the course.
Can you hang back for a little bit, Ron? I got a question for you.
Yes, I can.